Hey everybody, welcome to how to make sure you never run out of cash while building your company. I want to give you a quick sneak peek on something that we're creating over here at Finance for Entrepreneurs. This is our 30 days of mentoring dashboard, and it's an amazing, amazing tool to make sure that you always know what is going on with your cash. You always know what's coming in and you always know what's coming out, and you get little warning signs when things are not going well. So you may or may not know 30 Days of Mentoring is the 30-day session that we do. It happens 4 times a year, January 15th, March 15th, June 15th, and October 15th. So this is what we create to help entrepreneurs for our 30-day session and beyond to really make sure that they never run out of cash because they always know what is going on. So let's go ahead and dive through this. There's a lot more to it than this. This is part of the dashboard. There are some on the bottom that we're not going to dive into. I'll touch on them a little bit, but I don't want to overwhelm you. What I want you to understand today is that there's really some basic concepts that you have to know to make sure you never run out of cash. And basically what it is just making sure that you know your numbers, that you know them every single day. So the first thing that we're going to look at is current snapshot. And as you can see, it's as of today, right? Today's date is May 31st, 2017. This is automatically pulling in today's date. So it's just a simple function, equals today, it pulls in today. It's a very simple concept. Everything I'm going to show you is very, very easy to replicate. I can tell you how you can get more of it later when we're done with this, but I think this is something that you can go home, do it yourself right after you watch this webcast. So the first piece is cash balance. That's just pulling in from the financial model what your cash is as of May 31st, 2017. The next piece is your net burn. That's how much money comes in, money comes out, and that's what your net number is, right? So this company, if this were my company, I'd be a little bit nervous because you typically want to have about 6 months worth of runway, and this company only has 2 months worth of runway. So that's what I was saying about in the beginning. This is what keeps you sane. This is what helps you make sure that you don't run out of cash. So if this were my company and I was having my morning green drink or my whatever cafe latte and I'm looking at this, I'd be a little bit concerned. I'd want to know, why is our revenue so low? Why are expenses so high? And then I can delve into the financial model and pull those numbers and understand why. So very, very important that you always know what your runway is in months. And if something's gone awry, then you have to go figure out. Maybe your clients aren't paying their invoices on time. Perhaps there were some extra expenses that you got billed and they perhaps weren't supposed to be billed. So you want to understand always, always, always what is going on with your cash. And that's how you make sure that you never run out of cash because you're always on top of it. That next one over to the right is our 24-month expense forecast. Now, I strongly believe in doing 24-month models on a monthly basis because that's where you have the most visibility. If you have any visibility at all, it's going to be in the first 2 years, right? That's the amount of time that you're typically going to raise capital. If you're going out and you're talking to angel investors or venture capital funds or your rich uncle, he or she's going to want to know what you're going to do with that money. So this little chart donut that's exploding in different colors is telling you pretty much my budget for the next 2 years is a little bit over $1 million. I'm going to spend about 47% on salaries, about 24% on technology, 24% sales, ads, and marketing. I like to call it SAM, and 5% on just general. And that's going to be office space, paper, all the stamps that you need because you're sending so much mail via regular mail, of course. So it's always, general is always pretty small. So this would really help me a lot if I'm going out to pitch to investors and I want to explain to him or her, I'm looking for $1 million and here's what I'm going to do with it. And you could even add numbers instead of percentages here. I like to look at percentages because it shows me relatively how much I'm spending. Now, one mistake I see lots of entrepreneurs make when building a financial model or budgeting, how they're going to be spending the money that they're going to be raising from all these investors who are clawing to invest in them. They always skimp on salary. They don't realize that the salary piece of it is really, really going to be high. And one way that you can mitigate this is by building a solid team. So building a team of people who encompass all the skill sets that you need. So if you're developing a technology company, hopefully you can recruit a CTO who actually is in love with your idea and really believes in what you're doing and wants to come in and do this for equity, right? Ideally, if you're doing something in that requires a lot of branding. Let's say you're doing a consumer-facing product. Hopefully you'd recruit a CMO, somebody who has some design skills. And nowadays, everyone has design skills. And nowadays, everybody can use the technology that's on the web and make their stuff look really, really amazing. So sit down and figure out what skills you need to build your company and try to fill those slots with co-founders who are going to be able to take equity, and perhaps they have some savings and they won't need to really have a large salary, because what you could end up doing is getting stuck with this paying a developer to create something for you, even if it's like an MVP, paying somebody to design your website, paying somebody to create graphics for you. So don't get in the habit of just paying for everything. Get in the habit of building a team of people who can really help you, because I'll tell you, salaries are a really, really big component when you're starting a company. And then next, let's drop down to technology. Now, this is a really important piece, and I hear this all the time. Entrepreneurs will say things like, well, I didn't really put a lot of technology budget there because I'm not a technology company. And if I'll say, what are you planning to sell? Oh, I'm going to sell apparel. Okay, how are you going to sell your apparel? Online. Well, then you're pretty much a technology company. So I would say like 90% of companies that are starting today are technology companies, because technology is what we use to distribute our goods, right? Our products and services. So think about that. If you are building an e-commerce site, who's going to build the website? Who's going to maintain it? You're selling products. What's the whole onboarding process? What's the refund? Somebody doesn't like their product. They have to send you a note or email it back so they can get their refund. So what's that whole process look like? And think about how you're going to do that. And again, back to my original point about salaries, if you can recruit a CTO who can build your website, create everything that needs to be, everything behind the infrastructure that needs to be done, that is going to be gold. All right. So going back to the whole topic of today of, how do I make sure I don't run out of cash? There's lots of things you can do, and probably the most important one is to be frugal and to be smart about how you are spending money. Okay, so if you're going out to raise capital from somebody, they really care how you spend money. So make sure that you really are somebody who is frugal and you're really watching the bottom line. Now, our next category is sales, ads, and marketing. I like to call it SAM. And I like to break these out for a couple reasons. Sales, I believe, is a different animal. So if you're doing enterprise software, enterprise SaaS, you're going to have a sales team, right? So sales means something totally different in that world than ads and marketing. Ads would be if you're doing Facebook ads, or you're doing LinkedIn ads, or you're advertising at a conference, or you're advertising somewhere, you're putting ads up. That's a whole different animal. The next piece, marketing. So people like to call marketing, community building or something like that. Marketing looks different in every company. So break that out so you can analyze, again, what I was saying about the current snapshot. Where are you spending too much money? Where are there leaks in the boat? So really, really important. And last but not least is general. That's going to capture your office, paper, whatever things you have that kind of don't fall in any other category. And that's going to help you understand what you need for the next 24 months. You need over $1 million. So let's go ahead and drop down to 24-month profit forecast. And I want to give you a little disclosure here. This is not what yours is going to look like. So let's just say, for example, we put July 17th in as the date, the start date. This is a company that just got going, and even if they didn't just get going, if this company's been around for 6 months, you're probably not going to have profitability right out of the gate. There are some businesses that can be profitable from day one, but for most people that I encounter at the finance for entrepreneurs side of the world, they're looking to build a big company, right? So if you're looking to build a really big company, it's going to cost lots of dollars, and you can't always catch up with revenue. So even if you have revenue coming in, expect there will be some losses. 3 years is kind of a standard, or 2 years is kind of a good window. In this example, this shows that somebody gets profitable by month 18, and that's just for illustration. The whole goal of this webcast is to show you how you can put together a dashboard in your financial model so you can always stay on top of how money is coming in and out of your company. So in this scenario, what I want you to see is that you can see how you are increasing your losses, right? And then you see how you're decreasing your losses. Then you get to a point where everyone loves the hockey stick. You get to a point where you have an increase in revenue. So I would hope that when you put this together, it would look something like this eventually. But don't expect, like, if you're on day one, you're starting this company, you have this idea, you're building out a financial model because you want to start, raising capital eventually, or you want to start, figuring out how much things are going to cost you, that's awesome. That's great. Be ahead of the game, but don't think you're going to turn profitable in month 18, because for most companies it doesn't. So and if you have any specific questions about your revenue model, you can always email me. I'll leave a link below. You can find my email address, and of course it's just my first name, Lili, at financeforentrepreneurs.co. Shoot me an email and I will help you figure out if you're confused at all about at what point should a company like yours typically reach profitability, because every company is a little bit different. If you are developing a pharmaceutical, you may not be profitable for 20 years. So every industry is a little bit different. And last but not least, the salient six. So if you've been around, you understand what the salient six means. This is a term that I coined because I got so sick and tired of these poor entrepreneurs wasting their time, stressing themselves out over this income statement and balance sheet and statement of cash flow. It's all this information that you don't need to know. Again, I am focusing on how you can make sure that you never run out of cash while building your company. I am not trying to teach you how to be an accountant. I am not trying to teach you how to be a CPA. I'm trying to show you how to be an entrepreneur who's running a company, wearing lots of hats. You're busy. You just need to see the high level detail to understand where's money coming from, where's it going out. Are there any red flags? I'd say 2 months in runway is a red flag. That's all you care about. So salient six is number 1, revenue. Number 2, cost of revenue. Number 3, R&D. Number 4 is SG&A, because traditionally SG&A all go together in the accounting world. That gets you to your operating income. And then, of course, cash. Cash is the most important thing of your company, and that is why we allow it in from the balance sheet, because it typically lives in the balance sheet. We allow it onto our salient six as the only item from the balance sheet that comes onto this. So everything else is from the income statement. Income statement holds your revenues and your expenses. So this is all you care about. Revenue, how much is the cost of revenue? So again, if you're creating apparel, you know right away that it's the cost of the materials. If you have a technology company, it's the hosting cost. So what costs absolutely have to happen for your business to keep going? The next piece of that is the gross margin, because this is the first kind of measure right there. If your gross margin is not 65, 70%, then you probably don't have a business. So let me give you an example. If this company had, these are thousands, by the way, 20,000 in revenue and 19,000 in cost of revenue, they really have no company, because you have other operating expenses, as we're going to list below, that are going to eat up that little tiny profit that you have. So you want to make sure that you have a healthy gross margin just to start, and then we start worrying about research and development, sales, advertising, marketing, and that general and administrative category that kind of catches everything else that's not in those categories. And that's what your operating expense is. That brings you your operating loss, typically, our operating income. And then we want to look at our operating margin. It's going to be negative, as we already pointed out, but eventually you want to have a healthy, nice operating margin. You might hear people say EBITDA margins. Now, EBITDA is basically earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Now, here's why I do not mess with EBITDA. You do not have interest. If you have a convertible note, you may have an interest component, but we're moving away from that. If you look up SAFE, S-A-F-E, it is a whole different way of doing convertible notes, and that's what we're moving towards, right? So most people who invest in convertible notes, they're not looking for an interest payment. That's not why they're investing in startups. You invest in startups for high growth. So interest is kind of an oddball thing that really shouldn't even be in there. So don't worry about interest. Do not worry about taxes, because you're probably running at a loss, and even if you are running at a profit, it's not going to be that high of a profit that your taxes are going to be that high. And if you do have taxes, add in your taxes. If you have interest, add in your interest. The last two you definitely should not be adding in. Depreciation and amortization. These are two accounting methodologies, and I'll give you a really simple example. If you buy a computer today that costs $5,000, and it's probably going to last for 5 years, and you're going to buy a new one in 6 years. What you're doing is straight line depreciation, and you probably never will need to know this other than just for this example. So every year I'm going to allocate $1,000 in cost to this $5,000 computer, and in year 6 I get a new computer. So basically it's just an accounting terminology that's saying that you buy something in 1 year, but you don't use it all in 1 year, so you can expense it every year. Don't do that. You don't need to do EBITDA. as you get going as a big company and you have lots and lots of computers and lots of equipment, you can start doing that. But here's the thing. If you're just getting going in your company and you have perhaps a bookkeeper who's outsourced and you don't have anyone to do your numbers, you want to keep it as simple as possible. And as you start growing as a company and you start getting bigger and bigger, you can have your own accountant in-house. You can have your own bookkeeper or whatever you want to call it. You can have your own CFO. You can have, when you get really large, maybe you'll even have a controller. So don't feel like you have to be an accounting expert just to build a company, because you don't. You just need this very, very simple high-level detail that shows you how money comes into the company, how it's going out, plug in a few measurements here and there, the runway, analyzing your expense forecast, seeing when you're going to be profitable, those kinds of things. That's the most important piece of it. And so last but not least, we see our cash flow inflow, cash outflow. What is our cash balance? What is the cumulative cash? That's what you care about. So in this analysis, I can say, okay, from the next 6 months here, I will have a loss of 25. This is in thousands, 25,000. And I also know from looking at this that my 24-month expenses is going to be $1 million. So I can already kind of understand what I need for 6 months. I can already understand what I need for 2 years, right? And that's what's the most important thing about running a company. You end up running out of cash when you don't have any visibility, when you don't know what your burn rate is, you don't know what your runway is, you don't have a really good insight into your 24-month expense forecast. So this is what I really want you guys to understand. When you're building a company, it's all about tracking your numbers and making sure that you understand when anything goes wrong, you are right on top of it. Now, there are a few other dashboards, so to speak, little charts, and infographics, if you want to say, down below. And I'm not going to go into these because I think it'll confuse you guys more. This specific model that we're looking at right now happens to be for enterprise SaaS. There's a model for e-commerce. There's a model for ads. There's a model for retail. There are several models that we use in the 30 days of mentoring. And in 30 days of mentoring, it's like you sign up and you get an hour of onboarding. So we sit with a student and we onboard with them. So we're onboarding with them so we can customize their financial model just for them. So this is being watched by people. I don't know who you are. I don't know what your revenue model is. So I don't want to confuse you. So I don't want to dive into the metrics because metrics are different for different industries. So in this example, because this is an enterprise SaaS, we're looking at revenue per salesperson, right? If you're doing e-commerce, you probably won't have a salesperson, so that's going to confuse you a little bit. So your metrics will be specific to your industry. If you have any questions about what your metrics should be, you can email me. My email is just lily@financeforentrepreneurs.co. You can go to the website, financeforentrepreneurs.co, hit the contact button, and you can email me there, whatever you want to do. So I'll just tell you that metrics are specific. The next little bar that you probably can see on the bottom, that is showing the growth rate, and it's charting your growth rate, again, revenue per salesperson, which may not apply to you, average contract value, which may not apply to you, and paying subscribers, which may or may not be what you're doing there at your company. So I don't want to confuse you with a lot of that stuff, but if you want to know more, just contact me, and I'm more than happy to walk you through what you should be doing for your company. If you have any questions how I made these gorgeous graphics, I can tell you. I actually made these myself. So that just tells you that they're very easy to put together. I'm not a design person. I don't have any special skills in this, but yeah, I just like things to be visually appealing. I like to look at things and immediately know the data. I would say that this Salient 6 chart, to me, feels a little busy. Like it's a lot of information, but I want you guys to see this because I want you to see each component and what you should be looking at. If this were my dashboard, I would just zoom down to cumulative cash. Like I would zoom down to cumulative cash. I might even want to add, to make it more busy, I would add more percentages, R&D as a percentage of revenue, sales as a percentage of revenue, and so on and so forth to see the relations there. As we get deeper in this financial model, there are certain tabs that show you specifically that. It's a whole entire sheet, and it'll break down cost of revenue as a percentage of revenue, R&D as a percentage of revenue, and it shows like those should be growing together, right? You should start to see revenue grow up, and you should start to see those other items go down. So working inversely together. So yeah, I think that's it, you guys. I don't want to totally overwhelm you with like so much stuff. But again, this is just a really simple dashboard that I think that you guys can put together yourself in a very short period of time. And if you try it. And if you can't do it, just email me and I'll help you out. And 30 Days of Mentoring is coming soon. So if you want to take that and if you want to get one-on-one with this beautiful dashboard and make it your own and customize it, of course, please join me at that. It's a really exciting thing that we do. It's going to happen June 15th, August 15th, January 15th, and March 15th. We try to do it about every 3 months, but sometimes we push it out because of holidays and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd love to get your questions, you guys. So leave me questions below. And give me your input, give me your feedback. And if you want to know more, of course, just email me and I can answer any questions that you have. Or if you want to jump into 30 Days of Mentoring, that'd be super fun. Love to have you. Great. Happy financial modeling.